Subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an update. Guten Tag. Today on Lady Mary Beth, it's all about cake and conversation. I thought this would be a good time to sit and visit with you over an afternoon treat and show you around a bit and tell you what we've been doing since we arrived at our home here in Germany. Join me. Welcome, and please take a seat and enjoy me for some afternoon treats. You'll notice that I have a teapot. I'm not drinking coffee, even though that is the traditional beverage, about 3 or 4 in Germany. Millions of people will pause in their day, even if they're at work, for a cup of coffee and a sweet treat. And it's usually a piece of cake, and it is my favorite time of the day. I've gone to the local bakery and I've chosen 3 different types of cake. It was a very tough choice, and I'll introduce those to you as well. And pretty much everything on the table is thrifted, and I will point those things out to you as well. So let's look at the cakes that we're about to enjoy. It was really a hard call today on these cakes. There were so many beautiful ones. This one with the cherry on top is a Frankfurter Kranzkuchen. It's got 3 layers of cake with buttercream and jam, and it's absolutely delicious. The one in the center is a Rahmkuchen, which is sort of like a German cheesecake, and it's got a streusel on top with powdered sugar and some apricots. And this they called Bauernkuchen because it came from a very large cake. So I think that I will probably have to cut some slices off of that. And even though this chocolate cream is not necessarily traditional for afternoon tea, I couldn't resist because I needed some chocolate in my day. And I love how they garnish it. It's beautifully presented. Well, I've got a knife here because I'm realizing that I definitely don't want to have to just stick with one type of cake. I want to have a little sampler platter, and my family is also anxious to have some of this after our visit. And this looks so good. We're actually going back to the same bakery tomorrow because we're hosting guests for afternoon tea, or should I say Kaffee und Kuchen? That's the English coming out in me. I think I'll start with this Rahmtorte. I don't want to necessarily put all 3 on my plate. Doesn't that look beautiful? Now you've got a better view of an inside shot of this cake, and I cannot wait to sample it. I want to try all the flavors today. It truly is my favorite part of the day in Germany. I call it my favorite meal. It's the best because you know that about 2 hours you can visit with someone and it's not an all-day affair. I am pouring Earl Grey tea. This is from a local tea shop called Thematik that's in nearby Saarland. It's absolutely delicious. And you'll see that I have a Richaud, or warmer, that is underneath the teapot. And I have the matching one in Texas. I actually have 2 of them, and I should have brought one. I keep thinking I'll find one here at the flea market, but of course, flea markets are not really open right now. So I'll just have to bring one of mine next time I'm here. But that's a really great thing. I know some people use tea cozies, but this keeps your tea warm for a good while. There's a tea light that you place inside, a candle. And because it's a black tea, I'm going to add some cream. And if I were a true German, I would be drinking coffee, of course. So we'll just pretend that it's coffee. But so many hostesses are understanding of my preference for tea, and they try to have that on hand for me. And you know, I was telling you that it's such a great tradition, but for me, I think it is the best part of the day because the hostess has prepared the cakes ahead of time and she's not busy in the kitchen besides brewing the coffee or the tea. And I think it's a slower pace, and that's why I like it so much. So always remember to bring flowers or chocolates or something nice for your hostess if you're invited for Kaffee and Kuchen or afternoon tea. Now I get to try the Rahmkuchen with Aprikosen, apricots. Truly delicious. I wish that you could sample some too. It's so very good. And if you're invited to someone's home in Germany for a coffee hour, you usually have 3 or 4 cakes on the table. It's not just simply a dessert or one cake. It is quite plentiful. So it's, again, a great opportunity to sit and chat and visit with people. I'm going to enjoy some Earl Grey right now. You've probably heard me say that our village is very close to the Villerenbach outlet. It's about a 25-minute drive to Mettlach, Germany, and it's 10 minutes to the nearest Villerenbach outlet in Wadgassen. And I did go there this week, and I was specifically looking for chargers. You know, at home I feature a lot of the Verona Villerenbach chargers that are in the different colors. They're made of glass. I have them in gold, silver, green, blue, and clear. And so many of you have acquired these as well. They are just absolutely fabulous. They elevate every table setting. And I did find out through a friend before we arrived, they are not sold in Germany, even though they're made by Villerenbach. They're actually made in Italy. And I was desperate to find some plate chargers because I just wanted to set in beautiful tables. And that was my goal. And I was lucky enough to find the Boston pattern. And that's actually something you can get in the United States as well. I looked at Macy's and Villerenbach, both of those websites, and they do offer it. And the Boston actually comes in a blue and I think maybe a red. I like the clear. I think it really sets off the place setting well. And it's something I was really happy to find. I got a total of 10 and they were €17.90. And I got 10% off by putting my email address in. So I got a pretty good deal. And there's no tax added in Germany. It's already included in the price. So glad to have those for our next occasion here. And also in the Villerenbach store, they have so many new patterns. They do a great job of displaying a certain look with incorporating different elements. And they really do have all the fabulous 4 basic table items. They have flatware, mostly stainless is what they offer in their outlet store. I think they do have a silver plate, but it's not so often that you see it. They even have linens and of course, lots of glassware and dishes. It's so much fun to go to the outlet store, and I like that they have something for every type of occasion. You'll see there's some rustic look. There's a new setting that they have that's made in Portugal that reminds me of some of the high-end restaurants here that they would use. I really like it. The plates are not completely round. They're not square. They're almost sort of oval, and it has a really nice look. And they do keep up with the trends. That's one thing about Villerenbach. They are all over the world, well represented, and we're just so fortunate that they're up the road. And that makes flea markets and thrifting even more fun because you have so many families in this area that have acquired dishes and stemware, and then you find it for next to nothing at all of these secondary markets. And it really makes it easy to set up a household here. Of course, if that's something that interests you. So many young people today don't choose those, though. They want a nice table look. They go with something that's more easy care, dishwasher safe, and they don't want to iron linens, so they keep it very, very simple. Breakfast is a wonderful part of the day here. It's something that I look forward to, and even though sleeping in really sounds great, I really want to get to the bakery early because I don't want my favorite things sold out. So that is just exactly what I need to get out of bed and walk out the door, and we're just a few steps away from the bakery that I frequent every morning, and they're even open on Sundays. That's not something that was always the case, but it certainly is great now to be able to get our favorite breads and pastries in the morning. And then directly across the street from the bakery is the Rathaus, which is the town hall, and that's where I was married in a civil ceremony 26 years ago this month. And our church service was in Texas, as you probably know if you saw my silver anniversary video last year. And it is definitely an important part of the village. It's where you go for all the important things and getting your passport, your ID card, and even, like I said, your weddings. And it used to be where the Count lived years ago when it was kind of under royal rule. This area has gone through so many changes. But the Rathaus is really a neat anchor to the town. And just one street behind the Rathaus, it's called the Enge Straße, and my husband's great-grandmother actually lived on that street. But what's really interesting is that that is where the synagogue used to be, and the Jewish school as well. And I'm always fascinated with that dark history of this area. And I like the fact that now people are talking about it. And there's a monument erected in front of the former Jewish school that tells some information about it and how many local citizens perished during that time. And there was a big move in Germany a few years back to put brass plates in front of the homes or properties of the Jewish families who had to either flee or were taken. And it tells the history of their families as well. And I find that fascinating and sad, of course, at the same time. And I think it's good that it's talked about and these families are remembered. And even if the home is no longer in existence, it might be a parking lot now, they still have a brass plate that is on the sidewalk that gives the history of that person. And I'm glad that they can honor that. And then across the street on the same Engerstrasse is a pub that is a really neat part of the community, and our neighbor owns it. It's full of beautiful antiques. It's absolutely such a great experience. And you can see the old windows, and design is very old world German. It's a great place to go have a drink at the end of the day. You can also order meals. It's called Zum Adler, which is the eagle. And just up the road is the church on the hill. And that's something that's been part of my husband's family's life for a long time, and I've attended services quite a lot as well. And lots of steps to get up to the front door of the church. And it's such a nice view from above. You can look down and see the village. And it's a very vibrant area and full of wonderful people. I sure enjoy being here, and I hope to come even more often. One of the wonderful things about being in our village is all the great invitations that we get from family and friends. Whether they're celebrating a birthday or they simply want to host a dinner party, we've been invited to so many different homes and had great conversation, wonderful food. And we've had to turn down some invitations, sadly, because we are just so busy. And that's just part of being here. But we so appreciate all the wonderful people that include us in their celebrations. And not long after we arrived, my mother-in-law hosted her birthday party, and so I brought the tablecloth and napkins from the Port Miriam Botanic Garden. I got those at Macy's online. And I set a table for her, and I wanted something to represent her interest with gardening and love of flowers. And I think that was really fun. I like the way the table turned out. And we've also been entertaining a lot in our home here. That was one of my goals in coming here because of the long pause. We hadn't been here in 2 years, which was no fault of our own. We couldn't affect a change there. But we're finally here, and I wanted to spend time here in the house. I didn't want it to always be about wake up, have breakfast, and then head out the door, because that's typically what we do. We are just nonstop on the go, being, invited and shopping and excursions. But this time we didn't take any trips. We met friends for dinner in restaurants on occasion. We had lots of friends over. We even invited friends for breakfast because we know that we're always at the breakfast table about 9:30 in the morning, and that's a good opportunity. If we can't fit in another invitation, we can always extend that so that they can join us. And we've had lots of lunch guests for a rather late lunch during our time here. We're lingering over breakfast a bit. So it becomes sort of a lunch and an afternoon refreshment. And in the evening, we like to enjoy being here in our home. And the sun doesn't go down until about 9 o'clock at night. So it feels like it's daytime. It's definitely different than in Texas. And it's just been such a pleasure to be here. We did have weekend guests as well, and we had a nice dinner party and grilled and had some traditional food. So that's been a lot of fun. One summer I decided that I wanted to add on to my cake server collection. At home I have some pastry servers and cake servers back in Texas, but in Germany we really just would use cake servers since that's what is served in the afternoon, is cake. And there are a couple that were original to the home that I'll show you, but so many of these I was able to get at flea markets. And I paid anywhere from $5 to $10 max, some were €2. And one we're using with our cakes, and that's one of my favorites. I think it has such an interesting design. And that is silver plate. It's from about the 1950s, and it would have just been a couple of dollars. This first one here, I can't figure out if it's Bakelite or ivory. It does have a crack in it. It's very, very old. It's probably about 100 years old, and I'm thinking it could even be the ivory. So if you have any insight, let me know. I think that's such a neat one. And some of these actually have some fine detail where they've been hand engraved. And this one I especially like because it stands up on its own. I think that's so sweet. So when I am looking for cake servers, I look for an ornate handle. I look to see that the blade is actually large enough for serving cakes. And this one I was happy to find because it actually works for pastries as well, in case there's something small that I'm offering. And these are not just for cakes. We use these for serving quiche and homemade pizza slices. So that's something to think about. They are definitely multi-purpose. And quite a few of these have a back stamp with the amount of silver so that we know that it is silver plate. And this one here actually has a matching sugar spoon. And I have another ornate spoon I'm using today as well. And one thing I realized at the thrift store, I didn't purchase it, but they had a set from the 1950s of a silver-plated sugar shell and cream spoon. And you probably remember from one of my previous videos when I talk about how cream is usually served at the coffee hour. It is a very important part of your flatware. So actually this probably is a cream spoon instead of a silver sugar shell. This one obviously lives up to its name and is in the shape of a shell. And we use it every morning at breakfast. I just love it. It just feels so fancy. It's nice to wake up to that in the morning. So keep that in mind when you're shopping around, whether it's at an antique shop or a thrift store. If you find some beautiful or interesting cake servers, pick them up because you can use them for just about anything you serve. Could even be used for lasagna, I suppose. And this is my cake server collection I wanted to share with you. I've moved on to the next cake. I'm enjoying the Frankfurter Kranzkuchen now. And I thought I would share a little bit of how it is to have homes in two areas, two continents. And we clearly spend more time in Texas, but we come here as often as we can. And now that our girls are in college, we're not following a school schedule, and that gives us a little bit more flexibility. And I have lots of friends that want to come with me and spend time in the home. And it is a bit of a cultural adjustment every time we come, even though we have one foot in both worlds. It's still very different and we embrace it. We absolutely love the life here, but it's completely different than what we experience in Texas. So it does take me a few days to kind of get in the swing of things and to get over jet lag, which is hard for me, but at least I get to take naps for about a week. So that's really nice. But anyway, let me get back to my cake and I will show you around a bit more. Just down the road in our village is an area that's sort of an animal sanctuary that's run by the city, and it's called the Wildfreigehege. And you see deer and wild boar and they're definitely taken care of by the city. But it's really nice because you can walk through the forest and enjoy the scenery. And this time of year when it's really getting hot, you can cool off in the woods. And when our girls were little, we sure enjoyed going there. They love seeing the animals. And that's a really neat aspect of our village. There's so much nature all around us. I'm so glad you came along today and joined me for the afternoon refreshment so that you could see a bit of our village and how we live here and what we do when we are in town. Lots and lots of entertaining, of course. And of course, we've got the dishes for that from all the flea markets and thrifting over the years. Thanks again for joining Lady Mary Beth. I hope that you find ways to elevate your everyday. Auf Wiedersehen.